Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Jaytheory interview show. I hope you have your caps on and are ready to talk to some great guys and experience a good time. Anyway, today we are joined by a great guest known as Professor Paleocon. Now he will introduce a little bit of himself to us, and we'll ask some questions about him. And also, we have another topic we'll hit later, which I think you guys will find really interesting. And of course, we have our questions, but we have those for every interview. So, Professor P,
Uh,
can you please tell us a little bit about yourself?
well, as stated before, I'm Professor P, or more professionally known as Professor Paleocon. But all you need to know about me is that I'm a Christian. I'm a content creator. I and I hate the Antichrist. Let's just say something cliche like that.
There you go. That's one way to go about it. So, what got you into the What was your motivation factor in getting the content creation game? Since I don't know if you guys know this, I'm sure you guys watching may or may not know, but Professor P is actually a YouTuber, and you can find his YouTube channel at Professor Paleocon. So, what got you into that stream of thought about wanting to do that?
Well, I'd say that I have the ability to be good at it if I really can put my time and energy into it, though I do not always have that time. And I also felt like I needed a space where I could put my ideas out there and have people to talk to about them that was separate from my personal life, because it's like, I mean, you might understand that the need to express ideas to someone or to a group of people that they could be potentially hostile to people in your personal life that you wouldn't wish to offend, right? So I guess that's part of what motivated me to do it. And also I thought it's kind of fun watching this thing that you've put together, like, come together, right? Like, you've got your ideas, and it's like making a shoe, but it's got it's different in a way. It's got you in it, right? It's like it's got your ideas, it's got your
Yeah.
time. So, anyways, it's interesting to see something that you've made come together. And I'm good at editing, and I edited American Populist's Neo-Gastonism video, and that was a masterpiece. That was an absolute masterpiece. You need to watch that. Um, but yeah, that's why I
So
got into
true.
that.
Watch it right after the podcast.
Yeah, I'll comment
Yeah, I
below.
agree with a lot of your points as well. I think that I agree 100% that it is nice to have a way to express your views without doing it to sometimes your friends, to your family, because that can cause a lot of disagreements and stuff like that, which you don't really want in a family.
Yeah, yeah, to say the least. It's like, but it's also like it's not common talk that you get on in family discussion oftentimes. And I think that part of the nature of the modern relationship, it just doesn't facilitate deepness, which we're going to be talking about later today, I feel. But you can't have a deep conversation with someone on anything and it not be awkward. It's like, no matter what you're doing, it's just like kind of awkward. Why would you have that deep conversation, right? It's like we're building something outside, or we're fixing something, right? Why are you bringing that up now? It's like, when I can have this space to express my ideas and take criticism, well, I greatly appreciate the ability to do that.
Yeah, I actually I 100% agree, man. Sometimes things just feel so shallow, and that like people can't talk about anything more than like their favorite like new flashy cape garbage show. Like life is so much more than just talking about the newest Spider-Man movie. since we need to actually be able to have like deep intellectual thoughts about the world and actually do a proper analysis, which I'm glad has appeared in the YouTube space more and more, and we're not just doing like crazy stupid vlogs on YouTube anymore.
Yeah.
But well, it's not a replacement for the in-person stuff, but it's just that the in-person stuff isn't happening as much anymore. So I'm glad that at least the YouTube has like partially filled that space, even if it's not a like perfect equivalent.
I was just saying that it's certainly no replacement, but it's preferable, right? Because deep conversation has to take place. It just has to take place. And we've totally removed that. So it's actually very important that people have the ability to express themselves. And this is why actually a lot of psychologists and therapists recommend to people like have a online group of people that you're willing to talk to things about, right? And it's like, I don't know. I think it's just extraordinarily important.
Yeah, I do as well. I do as well. Actually, we've gone off about some of the reasoning and like some like some complex topics, but we haven't got into like what your actual content is. So can you tell us like what the content you make on your channel actually is,
So
and like what direction you want to take your channel in the future?
yeah, so what I'd greatly appreciate that. Thank you actually for reminding me. I'm a very forgetful person, so I forgot to bring that up. But basically, I discuss cultural phenomenon, and I want to talk about like political theory more. I discuss. Well, I plan to discuss at least, um, you know, different styles of government and what I think on them and how they operate and stuff like that. And I believe I did a video on aristocracy along those lines and how it's too unpredictable. But it's political news. It's cultural. I mostly want to focus on cultural because I think that's more important than anything. Um, but really, I'll
So
do
you're
anything I
telling me your
want with
channel is
it.
gonna focus more than just like marginal tax policy? Is that what you're saying?
How dare I? How dare I? Yeah, it's definitely gonna talk about more than that though. Um, it's been kind of. I've been planning to take my channel into very, very great places, but it's been very hard for me. I'm. It's just life. It's. I have a tremendous respect actually now for the really proper content creators out there who produce things that really get your thoughts going, because it's like they are putting their blood, sweat, and tears into making YouTube. In fact, they find that a lot of YouTubers are burnt out and depressed and stuff like that. And I don't want to be like that. So I, instead of being burnt out and depressed, I just choose not to be that great of a YouTuber. Um, but I plan to do book reviews. I have some books I'm reading by C.S. Lewis at the moment that I'm gonna review there, and I was gonna do a monthly review stream at the end of every month starting this year, but we have the world's most boring president, and we are living in an extraordinarily uneventful year. So I just kind of
But
forewent
I
that.
think that the audience here needs a promise, though. I think that they need a promise you're gonna start that back up. I think that we need to say that the month that this video comes out, which will be the 8th, that you're gonna start back up in the month of August, that you're gonna start back up your monthly live streams
Okay,
where you're gonna have guests and you're gonna talk about lots of interesting things. I think we need a promise right now that you're gonna start that back up.
I will promise that I will start that back up if Jamie attends the first monthly review stream.
Okay, I will try my best to join it. Okay, I promise you that if I can make it, I will.
Okay. Okay. That sounds awesome. And also, something I forgot to do is I actually really do want to thank, and this is genuine. It's not like the fake cliche. I do genuinely want to thank Jamie because I just had some things that I wanted to talk about that I didn't feel like they can maybe be discussed in full on my channel due to the cause of what made me think about them, which funnily enough is a particular anime, and I'm not an anime fan in the slightest, so we'll oh man. But yeah, I do genuinely want to
Yeah,
thank Jamie.
Professor P has a very complicated thoughts on anime. Sadly, there's not very many anime enjoyers that I speak with, but we will get a non-anime enjoyer to discuss anime a little bit with us later on, which is pretty funny to be honest.
Yeah. Oh man. Um I forgot what I was going to say. I've hit a blank. I've hit a wall.
The wall's already been hit, guys. It's all over for us. No, no, okay. Then we can get on to another point that we'll just hit real quick before we get into the topic that you want to go into. Was you do you we you? I've also lost the ability to speak as well. So you've recently started working a little bit with American Virtue, and was you do some script writing stuff like that. So. So how do you feel about them, and where do you, and do you, are you excited for the future of that organization and stuff like that?
Yeah, I'm genuinely very excited for the future of that organization. I do believe that they need to get some more content out personally, and I think that if they can do that, they will really be the future of a true grassroots, authentic conservative movement. And I I know the people involved in the movement, and I can say that they're certainly men of upstanding character. I don't like that the organization has chosen to be neutral towards certain religious groups. Uh, but you know, we'll have to see how that goes. Just as long as they don't let a Mormon speak at one of their events, we'll be okay. Or at least what I should probably
Yeah,
say is, as long as they don't bring a Mormon on to be a contributor, that's what I should say.
basically, Professor P is part of the anti-Mormon squad. He is the staunchest anti-Mormon voice
Yeah,
in the entirety of American Virtue, and he will fight tooth and nail to keep all Mormons away.
yeah. I had Mormon neighbors growing up, and let me tell you, they are like they're very. It's funny because they're nice people, right? But it's also like, you know, you're a cult. You're a sex cult. You started as a sex cult, and now you're just a pseudo sex cult. It's like, come on, man. Come on, man. It's like, if you're gonna be a sex cult, just like don't lie to me. Don't call yourself Christian. Like, come on. I also would like to say that I had not necessarily announced myself as a writer for American Virtue, so yeah. But just know
This
that
is this is a this is this is a first announcement. This is a new announcement, guys.
yeah.
All 30 people that see this, they'll know. They'll know.
Oh no.
Or maybe this is the one that blows up. This is the one that blows up, and
Yeah. But uh anything that I say is they are not responsible for. I'll just say that. So, very clear.
yeah, it is. This is not all things discussed today does not reflect on the American Virtue Organization. Yes,
Yeah, definitely.
don't worry. I think the people know. It's okay. This isn't the year 1980 anymore, where like people be like, "Bro, every single time you speak, you're speaking for the company or some garbage." Because we live in a very different media landscape than we did back in the day.
Oh yeah.
And we realized that this unimaginable thing that sometimes people have their own opinions. Gasp! And that not everything someone does is a reflection of who they work for.
Yeah, yeah. I just figured that I'd probably clarify that in case like an N word just slips out, you know.
Oh my, we're censoring that, by the way. If an N word switch that, we're
Oh
censoring
no,
that.
oh no, oh no.
Oh man.
Uh-oh. I'm in trouble.
But tell us a little bit more about you. You're like yeah. People want to know a little more about who was Professor P. They want to know a little bit of the background about your life, not like super deep, of course, because we don't want to get into like doxing territory. But people would like to know a bit more about the man who was Professor Paleocon.
Okay. Well, I was homeschooled, and that had a great impact on my life. I'm the I'm the son of a man who was formerly a preacher, so I was raised in an extremely religious background. Uh, could I say extremely religious? I would say moderately religious. I would say healthily religious. Though you can almost never be too
Yeah,
extreme.
healthfully
Yeah,
religious.
healthily
Okay.
religious. Uh, I. What else about me is so interesting? I'm a car guy. You know, I know a bit about cars. So yeah, that's about all I can say about myself. I try to be very careful when
Yeah.
speaking
You
about
want your
myself.
Mustang?
I do want a Mustang, actually, a 1969 Mustang. One day I'll have to get that. But yeah.
One day when Professor P becomes an e-celeb and he has the money. One day when he's as big as Red Eagle Politics, he will have his Mustang.
Yeah, except Red Eagle Politics, you know,
I think that Red Eagle has a Mustang. I think doesn't he have a Mustang or
no,
no?
David, I
I
think
think he
no,
does.
John or David has
David.
a Mustang. I think it's like a blue Mustang or like something like that. Um it's a convertible. But I try to be very careful when talking
Mm.
about myself because I don't want to sound braggadocious and
No, you see, this is the time to brag though, since this is when we want. Like we want to hear that you're a top A student, that that you I don't know you got into like college early or something. Like we want to feel the intellectual prowess.
well, okay. Well, I did get into college when I was 14 because I was blessed enough to be homeschooled. And when you do that in certain states, you can get dual credit courses and you can enter into college easy. I will say, though, my first year of college did not go so well because my wench of a teacher did not know how to do an assignment online. So instead of doing like 12 questions of algebra, I did like 12 pages. Which, by the way, the questions were basically entirely right on all those 12 pages, but the assignment got turned in like, a week late, and the wench told me, "Oh, these aren't even the questions I wanted you to answer." So basically, I flunked that year of college, everything but my automotive courses, and yeah,
Oof.
yeah, all because that stupid lady didn't know how to do an assignment. The second assignment, that was also bad. She didn't know how to assign that, and I ended up doing more than I was supposed to again. And yeah, honestly, she should have just passed me for like 5 assignments because I did 12 pages of algebra in a crunched amount of time, um, while doing other courses. So I would that's what I would have done as a teacher. I would have been like, you know
Yeah, I
what,
agree, man.
you way past. But yeah, I'm no longer good at math because that lady made me not want to do math anymore. So it's been a little while since I've done math.
She broke him.
Yeah, yeah. The buck was
Son,
broken.
women, they just break men. Women buck break men. It's just how it is, you know. Women, the greatest destroyers of men.
Yeah, yeah. Though for different reasons each time. but I can't tell you much about me, honestly. I'm not a
Sure.
very
This is
interesting
also why
person.
Professor P is a he's a this is why Professor P is a loner doomer incel now. The ladies. They just been so cruel.
Oh man, I'm actually I tend. This is okay. This is. Here's the thing. I tend to be a bit of a ladies' man. I tend to actually be a bit too quick. I'll be like, "Hey, I've seen this girl for like 2 days in a row. Let me just hand her my number." And I'm the kind of guy who dances with multiple different women at a party. I I I don't have a problem in that regard. I have a problem in the fact that I'm too swift. I'm too swift. I kind of scare them
He's
off.
too fast.
Yeah, I'm like Sonic, man.
He's gotta be like, whoa, slow down. Whoa, whoa, I don't do. You gotta be like, whoa, bro. I don't. You gotta tell the ladies, whoa, bro. I don't do premarital sex. Calm down, please. I know you want a part. I know you want a piece of the professor, but come on.
It was just a dance, lady. It was just a dance, you know. It's oh man.
It's Yeah, it was just a dance. We cannot go to the bathroom together, please. It was just a dance.
But yeah, so that's about me.
Okay.
I am currently single. Uh I'm not.
You hear that, ladies? You can officially DM Professor B on Twitter
Oh,
at Professor Paleocon.
I have a good physique, you know. I know I'm just messing with you. I don't do online stuff. No, I'm very against
Okay.
online stuff. Actually, we could talk about online dating today in when we get to the meat and potatoes of everything.
Yeah, we can get into that. Yeah, we can get into that now. Actually, we can start getting into that now. Since it's been about 20 minutes. We've got 25 minutes. We've started this off, man. Let's get into some of the stuff you want to talk about. So we're gonna start off and what online dating or something like that.
Yeah, I guess we can start off with online dating and the utter state of romance since we're there. So, I guess online dating properly understood is the lack of ability to accept reality. And the reality is that most guys are just not brave enough to go out there and go get stuff. But the also another thing about online dating is that people are there's multiple spheres to online dating, right? So there's like the people who are just they just want to screw, and then there's the people who are like, okay, I can't find anyone in my area, so I'm gonna go look online. And then there's the people who are like, yeah, I have a girlfriend, and it's like they've been texting their girlfriend for 2 years, they've never met, and all that stuff. It's a very layered discussion. But what I would say is that I would say that the people who are like, yeah, I have a girlfriend, they've been texting them for 2 years, they simply can't acknowledge the fact that they don't know what it's like to be in a relationship, or they can't accept the fact that they'll never really be in a relationship being the person that they currently are. And so they go to the online world and they're like, "Oh yeah, this is
Yeah.
dating. This is a
So you're
relationship."
relating it to like the incel like loser culture, right? And that these guys aren't actually like properly socialized and prepared for a relationship. And that it's kind of like a code, right? Was they've never even experienced like the actual like male female dynamic in person, and
Yeah, I'm sort of
and stuff like that. Is that what you're referring to?
Sort of, yeah, at least for that sphere of online dating, I would say it's certainly like that. Um I think that I think that in other spheres, such as people who simply cannot find anyone in their area, like I understand that, I'd suppose. It's like if you literally cannot find anyone to date, then first of all, you probably need to move, but second of all, it's like I do I can understand that. I'd forgive you for doing that. But the other sphere of it would be like Like the people who just want to screw, right? That, and there's not really that much to think about, right? Because well, they're just degenerates, but I would call it an enabler. An enabler, that's what it is. And uh, it's also like it removes the consequences of screwing around locally versus screwing around on someone's turf who's like 50 miles away, right? So it's like it's no longer
Yeah.
awkward. You know, it's like you can travel 50 miles and you
Right.
remove that
It's also just
awkwardness.
yeah, it also just becomes something more about like playing games with them, right? And just focusing on like their own like personal enjoyment and making them feel like fuzzy in the brain and like not truly caring about the other person and just caring about their own like self pleasure.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And it's truly a problem because when you can't understand love, then you're not understanding the most important feeling of all, I'd say. Uh, and when you can't feel love, you don't understand what it's like to have a bond, you know. And it's like love is multiple things, right? Love is a bond. Love is an action. It's a state of being. It is a feeling, but it's also like it's truly in a lot of ways not understandable, but it's an action.
Yeah.
It's a bond, and it's something that you won't experience when you're just like, you know, screwing around and all that stuff. And part of why people were able to get away with the saying love is love, which basically astroturfed homosexuality. um Part of why people were able to say that is because the uh the bond that we experience, and you know the way that we experience love, had changed so much that basically we could only conceptualize love as like, oh yeah, I have butterflies in my stomach, and it's like that's not what love is, right? So in
Yeah, we lost the connection and the commitment aspect of it.
Yeah, and we lost it because, well, first of all, there was the sexual revolution, right? But we also lost it because it's like there was a certain bond between a man and a woman that was removed, right? Men didn't have to work hard to become a eligible man for courtship. Women didn't have to really work. Okay, that's not what I should say. Women women had been changed to such an extent that the bond that they experienced with men was more like you provide goods and services for me, I do nothing for you, right? That's kind of what it came to. And because in the past, like, you know, a man would come home and his wife would, you know, she'd feed him, she'd take care of him and all this stuff, and she'd take care of his home while he was gone. But now something had changed in the last century. It was like women were
Yeah.
working, and it was like women weren't taking care of men, and if they were taking care of men, they were probably frustrated with them because they also worked a job, right? So it's like, why am I taking care of this man? You know.
Yeah.
So something had changed in there
Yeah.
that totally changed how we experience love. And
And I think that media has also affected how they view that psychologically, since in movies, a lot of the time, it gives a very distorted view and just about like some emotion or something like that. And like, and it doesn't really show like a proper relationship a lot of the time. It's just about like chasing some like warm feeling and like hooking up basically, and not on everything else that is involved in things like that.
oh yeah, oh yeah. But you have to think, like, maybe what caused people to start writing movies like that? What made people think that it was like, and not only that, but what caused people to start watching movies like that? Like, where did the appeal start that someone was like, okay, not only am I going to write this, but people are also going to find this appealing. So where did the appeal start? To me, that's a funny thing, and it's like it had to be the experience that we had with love in the 20th century. And
Yeah, I think it partially connects to like feminism and them connecting to like the darker parts of humanity, of course. Since not everything that man desires, since the heart of man is deceitful, and not everything it desires is good and worthy to be taken in. So
that's
I think there
true.
always would have been an audience for it per se, but I guess just the mass allowing of it though, and like the propagation without any shame, I guess is where you say that would be the failings of just the American people as a whole for not actually calling out these things when it was a problem, and instead letting it to leaving it to proliferate in the markets.
What you said about appeal is true to an extent, but I also think that we not only was society like different back then when they started making those movies, right? We were more chaste and things along those lines, but we uh we we're unhappy when we are in relationships with people who not only do they not care about us, but we don't really care about them, right? So and we're also unhappy with a relationship that is unbonded, and it's just like, oh well, we just met last night and we just fell in love and love each other. We're unhappy with relationships like that, and I think that's why people break up all the time in the modern age. But where there's there I don't think that there is an appeal to people for something like, oh, we just met and we just love each other, right? And I think that that's how it was maybe sold to people, but it's not really that people love each other, is it? It's that they just wanted to screw. But
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, it's like I think they did like fake an appeal to it though. They made it seem more appealing than it actually was. Was what they when they offered on the plate, they promised other things that weren't actually there, right? Since, but in the end, all that was there was like a sexual appeal, right?
yeah,
And satiating that desire when they promised all these other factors. Because even in media today, they still they promise that love and connection will come through that one that it'll make everything better. It'll fix all the problems. But in actuality, that's not really true.
yeah,
But it's missing all the other elements.
yeah, and I think that this would be probably a good point, a good time to bring something up. The the why SAO is the only good anime uh discussion, and I'm gonna bring that up right now because in that anime, right, there's people are put into this world that is dangerous, right? You can die, and you have to find a group of people to stick with, and you guys are going to keep each other alive, and that creates an incredibly strong bond. And you also in that world, you experience consequences, right? Serious consequences. It's not like nowadays where you get in a car, well, and you have a car crash, well, you have insurance to fix that, right? So it there's sacrifice, and there's bond, and we've removed all of that. We have removed all of that.
Yeah.
And it's I think that the relationship is not going to heal until life truly gets hard again, honestly, because of that. So
Yeah, but basically SAO is like it's basically a hard game. It's where people are transported into a hard game where they think they're going to experience a new MMO, but in actuality, well, there's a plan from the very beginning to like trap them all in it and have it where if you die in the game, you die in real life. So there's real consequences to a supposed fantasy game, and you enjoyed the have that actually having consequences, right?
Yeah, yeah, and
And it feeling real.
yeah, and I think that, and what you see in the show is that they bring it up multiple different times. Is that there are people who they don't want to go back, or they question whether or not they want to go back because life in the game became better than life in real life because there was struggle, there was there was beauty, there was bond. There was like a perfect balance of things that had been created solely by the fact that life was consequential. And it was like, I think that in a way the TV series is it's designed almost perfectly. It wasn't necessarily executed perfectly because people constantly want to escape to this like different reality, right? This is where you get LARPers. It's where you get I'll just say it, anime fans. It's where you get people who are emotionally evolved into TV shows, and people are just they're just not content living in this reality, right? So one of the ways that people escape this reality is through a game, right? And it's funny because SAO is a game. And another ways that people want to they don't want to live in this reality. They want to live in a reality where life is it's got that perfect balance of struggle, beauty, and love. And so, okay, well, now you've got that into SAO. And it's also, what's funny is that they're escaping the modern world, right? They're being taken from the modern world, funnily enough, in 2022, and they're being put into this game where you can die. So I think,
Yeah, and it's giving them all the things that they didn't think the modern world could give them too. It's giving them that the beauty and like in relationships as well, because was how it worked is it was basically how the nerve gear or whatever, how they entered the game. Everything was like real life basically. Like you saw through the character's eyes, you felt what the character felt. It was basically like an out of body experience, and that transports their entire being into the game, right? And it gave them like the struggle and the relationships, everything else that they were missing in the real world, which is why a lot of people did actually they just stayed on the lower levels, right?
yeah,
Because how SAO worked, I think there was like 100 layers or something like that, and a lot of people just decided to live on like the center layers, on like layer 50 or something like that, and they just lived their lives on like farms or other stuff like that,
yeah, and it's
and raised even families and stuff like that.
yeah, yeah, exactly, right. And I think that with the main characters, there's a something that's kind of interesting. It's like,
Yeah, Kirito and Asuna, for those that don't know.
yeah, yeah,
The main characters of SAO is Kirito and Asuna.
yeah. So these two players, they're they're like the best of the best, right? So they're these frontline fighters. They fight together and all this stuff. They solve problems together, and they risk their life for each other. Eventually, they decide that they'll marry and whatever and stuff like that, right? So they but before all of this happened, they were wondering, like, is it really worth it, right? Is anything really worth it anymore? So they just decide, they get married, right? And then they go and they take like this 2 week honeymoon or whatever it was, and well, a lot happens, but yeah, ultimately they find that there's this beauty in life that is worth fighting for, and they take this break period, right? And it's almost like in life, when we're fighting for something, we live for the break period, right? We just live for that rest. And I'm trying not to spoil the show too much, but basically they find that there's this
I
beauty.
mean, it's fine. I mean, it's like 7 years old or something like that now. It's like it's pretty
That's true.
came out a while ago.
But yeah, that's true. But basically the point is that they find that there's like this beauty that's worth uh fighting for and worth dying for. And they find that life is also worth living solely because they have each other. And all of this was solely facilitated by the fact that there was a good mixture of beauty and struggle. Actually, it was mostly facilitated by the struggle because, like, beauty is fleeting. And not only is it fleeting, but it's like it loses its appeal after time, right? Like, how many times can you look at a beautiful mountain and, what's it going to feel like after the 10th time, right? So it
Yeah,
basically all of this was facilitated by the fact that there's a struggle to life, and it totally changed everything. But now modern relationships
yeah,
and every fact of modern life, every part of it, it's like, oh, there's absolutely no struggle whatsoever. In fact, the struggle with modern life is that there is no struggle. So we kind of screwed ourselves.
yeah. And like and even when they finally do get out of like the SAO thing, like it's so that they can do these things for real um and experience that life together that they wanted.
Exactly.
Because while it was for a lot of people, the game was better than their real lives, because it did offer the struggle which humanity needs and is important for humanity to thrive. They also realized that they can create a life for themselves together IRL, and it can be just as good as the game, even if it takes more work, because they have to like make that for themselves.
Yeah. And I think that that's something that's also kind of important to think about is that they get out of the first game. Everyone gets out of the first game except her, right? The game is beaten, but she's trapped in there for, I remember the reasons, but she's basically trapped in there by this pervert who runs the software company and all this stuff. So he's got control of her brain, right? And so he's also got control of her body. And Kirito finds this out, and he's like, okay, well, I have to get her out of here, right? And he goes he's I guess the way I would say it is that he finds his cousin wants to screw him, um literally. uh and he's
They're not perfect characters, okay? They're from Japan. It's a Japanese show, so the characters aren't exactly perfect, guys.
yeah, sweet home
It's a
Japan,
DJing culture. It's a DJing culture in Japan.
sweet home Japan,
Sweet
baby.
home Japan. That's
but
right.
but what is displayed in I call it the second season, even though it's not the second season. He goes into this different world that she's been trapped into because she's still plugged into the software, and it's almost what he experiences is more brutal than anything he's ever experienced, because he finds her and he witnesses her like raped in front of his face, right? And that's like he's also been trapped at the moment as he's watching this, right? And I mean, there's so much, it's hard to explain,
Yeah.
it's hard to put it into words, but there's this pure struggle that is displayed that really shows you what true love looks like, and you can see true love more in this fake TV show, in this fake world, than you can anywhere else in our real world. And I think that's why people choose to fantasize and choose to get emotionally involved in TV shows. Um, it's really sad to see. It's really sad to see this. It's just, I don't know, and I think that scene where she's raped in front of his face was actually very important to display everything as gruesome as you possibly could, because when people can't when people can't see what struggle looks like and what pain looks like and what evil looks like in its purest form, then they get some milk toast idea of it. It's like, okay, well, it's not that bad to be raped because I saw what it's like to be raped on TV, right? But if you were to display what it's actually like to be raped on TV, everything as horrible as you could, then people would be like, "Oh, it's actually really horrible to be raped," right? And they would really think about it more. So,
Yeah, it gives people like it lets them be able to see like how these things actually are, and how and yeah, and how like we need to view these things, and how I well this is semi off topic, and how like and partially how like right wingers should like view like abused women. I know it's like off topic, I guess, but you see a lot in like the far right circles is that they just like put down and like they just want to humiliate any woman that's ever been abused or like hurt by a man or anything like that.
hmm,
But we do have to have a little bit of compassion for people, and especially people that like we care about, but then realize that people can care about someone that has been like traumatized and stuff like that, and that sometimes that's just life, and that the people you care about and the women you love will that they it's possible that they'll be hurt, or in the past they could have been hurt by someone, and that you're gonna have to deal with that and potentially even save them.
yeah. Yeah, I agree, and I don't think that you would see a lot of that rhetoric if people had firsthand experienced these horrible things, right? So it's like it all comes back to the fact that we don't experience horrible things. We say horrible things about people, and we make we say things that we don't understand. We try and do things that we don't understand before we do them. Uh and if we had a little bit more experience under our belt, then maybe we wouldn't say stupid things. Maybe we wouldn't do stupid things, right? So, but
Well, yeah.
I think it's very important to
Well, maybe
display,
not as stupid of things.
maybe not as stupid of things, but maybe yeah, maybe just a little bit less. I don't know. But what I'm trying to say is that it's important to display that in its purest form, because you need to see how horrible it is, right? Like when you live in a world when you can watch television, you're probably living in a pretty safe world, right? So you're never going to know what it's like to
Yeah.
have that happen to you, or to anyone. And so you do need to see as bad as it can be, uh right? Because if the TV is going to do one thing, at least make it a useful tool for displaying struggle, right? At least make
Yeah.
people understand that. But,
Well, yeah. And it needs to be done in the right way too, because it does need to actually like show proper struggle. Because like there are a lot of shows that are just like that oh they're quote unquote like rated M for mature or rated R TV shows, and they supposedly show like oh it shows this like oh this gore and this violence and the sexuality, but in the way they present it, it's just gore for gore's sake, right? It's purely to make the audience entertained by the gore, right? And the violence and like the sex and everything else.
yeah.
I mean, I think that that's like best shown by oh shoot. What was that TV series that everyone watched? That was fantasy.
Game of Thrones.
Um uh
Was it Game of
Game of
Thrones?
Thrones, yeah.
Yeah, that would.
Yeah, I'm thinking of Game of Thrones.
Yeah. Oh boy, Game of Thrones. Yeah. Mm. Um, that's a really funny one. That's one that people got emotionally involved in. and people get emotionally involved in TV shows and I think specifically anime for a reason, which I'll explain. People get involved in that because their life is so unappealing, right? So look at the life of a modern person. You wake up every day, you go to your workplace, right, which is either McDonald's or Walmart or something that is similar enough. And you come home, you're either a loner and you have no one and you're estranged from your family, uh, or you have a totally horrible family, totally horrible roommate, right? So, but let's say that you actually do have family, right? The bonds that what's the
Yeah,
extent?
people are either screwed up and social, or they're alone and mentally ill.
Yeah,
That's where we're at.
yeah, yeah. But let's say you actually do have family, right? What's so great about your modern family? Like, what honestly have they done for you besides the bare minimum, right? It's like, yeah, I watch TV at the end of the day with my dad. He never taught me anything. I don't know how to use a socket wrench. Showed me how to change a car battery once. Yeah, I've really bonded with my dad so great. We went on vacation a couple times. Yeah, we really do love each other. He never disciplined me when I did anything wrong because he doesn't really care for me. He actually just wants my affirmation that he's a good dad. But yeah. So basically, that's the extent of our bonds, right? So even if we do have these people around us, it's like, wow, they're so great, right? I care so much. It's like, no one's going to care for that. No one wants that. So what instead people do is they choose to live in a fantasy world or believe in a fantasy reality. They choose to believe in something that is just it's just more appealing. It's just more appealing, right? And you get the opposite end of this where it's like people choose to live in the appealing reality, so they decide that they're going to become like some pagan, right? And do their pagan stuff. But the other end of it is that people are like, okay, I'm going to LARP, right? Or I'm going to care about what happens in this TV show and this game, and I'm going to think about it every waking moment, even while I'm at work flipping burgers, right? And I knew a guy. He as a kid
Right.
he was somewhat traumatized, and he would play RuneScape at the end of the day, and during the rest of the day he would imagine what he was going to do in RuneScape when he got home, and it totally plagued his interest as a child because everything else sucked, right? He had an abusive dad, school was repetitive, and it was like there was nothing. There was nothing to life. But he could choose to escape to RuneScape, and he chose to do it even while he was at school, right? So, yeah, it's a bad problem.
Do you know how? Do you have any idea how that kid turned out? Do you have any idea how that kid turned out, or
Well, at first he became a total degenerate, and he was smoking weed, addicted to porn, video games. He did them 12 hours a day sometimes. He'd said
porn video games?
porn. No,
Specifically,
no, no, no,
porn
no.
video games?
Porn and video games. Porn and video. I needed to clarify that.
Okay.
And but then he eventually realized, wow, this totally sucks, and he actually became a total giga chad a little while later. It took like 6 years, but he really changed a lot. But at first he led
Yeah, that's
down
a
a
good
path
thing.
that a lot of people would just kill themselves than rather live that path.
Yeah, rather than like try and change, because a lot of people view it very hard to change from that degenerate path or something like that, and they're just like, "Well, it's better to end it all than to try and do something new." That's very good, and I think that's also shows a thing that a lot of Gen Z is going through. That a lot of them are on that darker path, but we just got to let them know that there is a better path, and that they really do need to try and go down that one, because where there's love and opportunity there.
Yeah. And it's like what people can't they can't so here's my one of the reasons why I think that people are killing themselves so haphazardly. It's just like people can't see beauty nowadays, right? They can't see beauty in a relationship. They can't see beauty in a building. They don't see it. They don't see it in themselves. They don't see it in the people around them. They don't see it in online. They certainly don't see it online. It's like it's nowhere to be witnessed. Beauty is
Yeah, I
gone. It has totally fled the
yeah,
scene.
it's so true. I know, like, and that's like the saddest part, right? Is it like was it like fat? They're unattractive, right? They've like destroyed their body. You know what I mean? I can relate to that as someone who's still fat. You know, I'm on the weight loss training, but I'm still a fat man. Is that like you? Is that like you don't see that beauty in yourself, right? And it's also bad. Was with the destruction of women as well. You can't see the beauty of women either, right? So like the beauty of the human race, or how you perceive the human race, is destroyed as well, right? Which should be something that you find a great joy in, and that's something that's like truly joyous and pleasurable. But instead, it's just left like dark and ugly.
Yeah, it's like basically what's happened is that you grow up a young man. Look at it this way. This is the best way I can explain it. You grow up young. You go to school every day. You witness just pure ugliness all day at school. Your you and the relationships that you have at school, they're probably not the best, honestly. And then you come home and the relationship your mom and dad has is not great, right? A lot of people are divorcing nowadays, but it's also not great just because there's just a total lack of bond because of how easy life is, like we were discussing earlier. But not only that, but it's like there's a good chance that your parent is abusing you somehow. I think that a lot of people in our time, they have either abuse from like just generally abusive parents, but there's also abuse in the sense that there's parents who won't do anything. But anyways, that's a different topic. So you come home from school and you have to do your homework and all this stuff. You've been sitting 3/4 of your day, but there's the television. And you come home and at the end of the day, there's the television where you can escape to a reality where, hey, I could be like a Jedi, or I could be Sam and Frodo, right? In their mind, right? So we've already programmed the escape from a young age, but it gets worse as you get older because your perception of how life is going to be. It's that I'm going to have this career and I'm going to sit 3/4. I'm going to sit 1/3 of my day, and I'm going to come home and my wife is going to be exactly like my mom was with my dad, and it's very unappealing. So basically what you realize is that any beauty that is witnessed nowadays, it's witnessed through that TV screen, through that flat screen TV that you paid a lot of money for. It's where it's witnessed for most people because you don't see it when you're on a walk anymore. Look at New York City. It's absolutely disgusting. Philadelphia, the homeless people play on VR headsets, right? So it's a mess.
Yeah, I think that's it's a problem that we just don't see like real relationships and real love just like walking around anymore. Which is I do, well, not 100% related. I do partially blame that on some of the like more like the more like semi recent, like they were like 10, they were like 50 years ago, something like that. But those like it's partially effective, like those like purity movements, right? Where you can't show your love in public, right? Never. You can't show that you love your lady in public or something like that,
Yeah.
or things like that. Or the idea that like your kids have to be perfect in public all the time, like that's one consequence I see of like the 1950s perfect family culture. Um, is that I think that also made people not understand those things in the future, right? since I think that the 1950s culture stuff like that, there's a lot of things that they're trying to fix, right? And like protect against. But there, I think that that's one of the failings of that, which did potentially lead to future generations
Oh yeah.
not knowing what those things were
Oh yeah.
and making it like a big problem today.
Yeah, the 1950s.
I mean, you can disagree with me on that point
No,
if you.
I agree. I agree. I think that the 1950s are effectively a lie, right? The 1950s aren't great. In fact, I'd say I would if you told me that the conservative movement was going to achieve the 1950s again, I'd honestly probably just go out in the wilderness and live alone because I don't want a conservative movement that achieves the 1950s again because the 1950s is a lie, right? Not only is it unsustainable, but it also led to where we are now, right? So, but it's not just that, but
Yeah,
living in the 1950s, let's just assume that you're stuck in the 1950s forever. Time doesn't go forward or backwards, which is stupid to assume because it will. But um it's like, okay, so what is the 1950s, right? I go to my work every day. I sit, for most people at least. I come home, kiss my wife, my kids, and it's like rinse, wash, repeat. It's like, how is this so great? How is this so great? It's like, oh, I get to grill with my kids on the weekend. How many times do you grill before it gets old and before it's like, this sucks, right? It's like, people.
yeah. It's basically like a facade, right? It was an in between time that we were trying to go back to like conservative belief, but in actuality, like they just couldn't do it. It was basically like a facade against the communists. That's how I view it in a way, which is like, which isn't like a perfect connection between the communists and the facade, but whatever. Because in actuality, like they didn't fix the problems, right?
Yeah.
Which is why the conservative movement of that time kind of failed, right? Because it was like the undergirdings of it were already collapsing, right? Like that's why you like the feminist movements and like that's why you had the hippies and everything else that came from that kind of junk in like the 60s and 70s was could have been fixed in the 1950s, but they decided that they wanted to go with a perfect family facade. They're like, no, there's no sexuality between like a man and a woman, right?
Mm-hmm.
Bah, kids are perfect. Uh, like all of these things, we do the same thing every day. We got the cookie cutter house. All the houses are the same. We're all one big community, right? But while what we want communities, of course, it kind of messes up the uniqueness of individual communities, and also just like the importance of the individual as well. Since I think that's a very important thing, is the combination of the community and also the individual, and making that like a cohesive mesh.
Yeah. Exactly. And I would that's a precise point, right? That's very good because we want two things, right? Well, for certain we want two things. Okay? We don't want to be alone and we want to feel important to people. Okay? But the 1950s facilitates that you be a cookie cutter. It's like when you think about it started literally. Do you want to know why the suit and tie became a thing in the 50s? It's because it was a uniform. It was because you are a cog in the machine. We need you all to look the same. The same. You are no different, right? So it's like there's no struggle there. There's no difference in personalities. There's no difference in backgrounds. It's like it's a lie. It's an industrial revolution lie, and it's I think that in itself it's not beautiful, and I think that the whole suburb value that came out of it, I think that suburbs should actually be all of them should be destroyed with the people living in them, and then we should turn the rubble into like beautiful statues and whatever, right? Or we should like turn the land that's been made into suburbs and into like a wildlife reservation. Suburbs are a crime against humanity. That's another discussion, but like we were talking about, the
Yeah.
1950s totally removed struggle as well, right? Because there was like this whole everything has to be uniform, everything has to go smoothly. I just have my wife and kids that I barbecue with at the end of the week. And it's like no one's going to live for that. No one wants to live for that, right? So what I promote is 1840s nationalism, okay? So in the 1840s, everything sucks, everything's hard, everything's beautiful, everyone has a different background, and nothing is uniform. 1840s nationalism, humans were built for it. That's all I have to say about that. Honestly,
Okay.
it's like because at that timeline, right? It's like I have a family who I've struggled with, and they struggled just to have me, right? Because laboring a child back then, having a kid was like, first of all, you might die. Second of all, it's like the kid might die, and you have to work hard to keep it alive. And it's like, so I grew up, already life is hard, but then it's like it's beautiful because people care for me, and I'm important to people, right? And so it's like, what if you're a like let's say in a small town too. In a small town, you realize that each individual person is more important because they're harder to replace. There's less people. So we were not meant to live in such mass population centers, and we were not meant for life to be so easy. And we were not meant to be so dependent on one another that we aren't dependent on one another at all. Right? It's like look at someone who lives in a city, right? They are absolutely dependent on the farmer, right? Farmer stops farming, city person dies, right? But what
Yeah.
happens if
Oh, I guess you could say, yeah, they're so dependent. No, they're so dependent on other people that they don't even know who surrounds them. That's
yeah,
how I would describe cities
yeah.
nowadays. It's so it's like so interconnected that like they can't even see like the closest like strand of thread, right? Like it's so tightly packed that yeah,
You're
like okay,
atomized.
no, yeah, I it was, what the saying, like you miss the trees for the forest.
Yeah.
At that point, they can't even see the trees. They just see themselves.
Yeah. You're totally atomized, right? So it's like, well, I'll say this first to finish something. It's like the farmer stops farming, the city person dies. But if the city person never leaves their home, no one gives a damn, right? No one gives a damn. You never leave your home, like whatever, right? You didn't have an effect on society. You're unimportant. You suck, right? But another thing you'll notice in cities that is a sign that we're so atomized is it's like what people will do in cities, right? So I went to a big city of probably about 1 million to maybe 2 million people once, right? And I see this black guy walking down the street. He's probably like 19. He's sagging. He's wearing his basketball shorts sagging. He's got his
Oh no.
stereo on his shoulder. He's freestyling his own rap because he's just got a beat. He sounds like absolute like it's like I'd rather listen to a wood chipper, and he's shirtless. He's not even homeless. He just doesn't care that people are looking at him, right? What would cause someone to not care that people are looking at him? And you might say, "Oh, well, he's a sigma male." It's like, no, it's absolutely the opposite. It's like there are so many
Yeah.
people here
I think, yeah.
that there's absolutely no one here because it's like you're just another crazy at that point, right? Someone sees you, it's like, oh, it's just another person, just another crazy
Exactly.
person. So yeah,
Yeah, I like the Sigma. Well, I've claimed to be a Sigma male myself, as the memes. But saying the Sigma male thing is a cope. It's a cope that you've rejected society and that you're a loser. Like, no, brave. Like, no, man, you don't want to be the Sigma male. It means you suck at life and that you don't care about other people. or yourself, and you're just a sad person, like bro.
Yeah, and
Because like life isn't all about just like independent. I'm all alone. Well, like in actuality, like being all alone isn't all it's cracked up to be.
I know, right? But and it's also not even necessarily the sigma male thing that you're all alone. It's also that it's like I don't give a care what people think about me, right? And it's funny because you do care what people think about you, even though you're saying that you don't care, right? Because like, would you be a sigma male if you didn't have anyone to piss off, right? If you would you be a sigma male if you didn't have anyone to rebel against? It's like no, you'd just be you, right? So you do care about what people
Yeah,
think about
exactly.
you. You just want to piss them off.
Yeah, it's like with the N word thing, right? People be like, "Bro, I'm being edgy. I'm going against the culture. I'm saying the N word every other sentence." Well, I mean, what are you actually doing though, bro? You're just like rebelling against some like stupid people on Twitter who are gonna like get offended at you. So it's just like, what? Who cares?
Yeah, no one really does care, honestly. No one really cares. The whole sigma thing will hopefully it'll die out, but the I guess the sigma male would be
I don't know,
a
man.
good segue into something else I kind of wanted to maybe bring up, which was a self help slash self improvement culture. So it's like,
Yeah, of course we can get into that.
yeah, okay, all right. So I guess what I'd have to say about self help slash self improvement culture is like it is another form of escape, right? People are like, not only can they maybe not accept who they are, but they can't accept the modern world, right? And so a lot of self-help stuff, like you find so there's it manifests itself in different ways. There's the money making sphere, there's the get sex sphere, right, which is kind of like the manosphere. And then there's like the
Yeah,
actual like self-help. It's like, hey dude, you're mentally screwed, like you need some help, right? So there's the actual stuff, right? But it's a lot of it's just an escape. It's like you get the like, let's say you're a wagey, right? You work at McDonald's. I'll use that term because it appeals to those people. So you work at McDonald's, you don't get
yeah.
any women at all, but in your mind you can be the greatest sigma male out there if you're like doing the grind set. uh Yet maybe you don't have any women, right? Because it's like I follow these people on social media. I do what they tell me to do. I'm like this absolute sigma male. It's like, dude, you work at McDonald's. Snap back to reality. It's like, come on, man. It's an escape. It's a fantasy.
Yeah.
People, it's another fantasy which people are
Just
choosing
accept
to live in because they're just totally dissatisfied with how they live.
just accept that you got no maidens. No maidens. It's a sad life, but But I don't know. I don't feel like all self improvement culture is bad though, since it is important for people to improve, right? And like people want to get a girl, and that's not like a bad thing to want to get a girl or obtain females or whatever the junk.
Yeah, well, that's not really
So
what I meant when I said
well,
that.
I mean, well, it can become an obsessive thing.
I when I said that, I can see how that came off wrong. When I said that, I more so meant that there is a certain part of the self-help culture that is filled with people who they're not really interested in helping themselves or anything like that. They're just interested in telling themselves that they're a different person, and they're interested in the validation that they can derive from that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So yeah, you mean that kind of sphere? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've always viewed that as like that's a sphere that I've never really ventured into or looked into that much. Since it's like weird, man. It's like, bro, yeah, just be. It's basically like be who you are, but who you are right now is based, and you don't need anyone. And or it's like, or
The
if it's not
incel
into that, it's like
stuff.
you're fine how you are right now. You just need to be slaying game. You just need to be slaying some hoes.
Well, the incel stuff like that, it's also similar, though it's also directly opposite, right? Because it's like, oh, you're just too based for women. I'm an incel. I'm just too based for women, right? That's like what it is, and it's like it's again, it's like
Yeah,
it's a denial. It's like you're living in denial, my guy. The reality is that you can't get pussy, and you're telling yourself that that's a good thing, right?
exactly. I'm sorry, guys, but we have to tell you today that being a weirdo doomer incel is not actually based, and it does not make you a Chad. It does not make you into anything else other than, well, alone and not doing what you're called to do.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. I would say that exactly. Um, but yes, I don't have much else to say about the whole self help culture. I figured that I just bring that up in passing since we kind of went towards it with the Sigma male stuff. But
Yeah. Hey man, it's always good to have those nice segues. Okay, man.
yeah, exactly. I don't
Have we
believe
hit
I was
on
going to say
beauty
anything
how
of
you
any
wanted to hit
value.
on it? Have we that stuff was I think we did hit escapism, beauty, that kind of stuff. But is there anything else you had some thoughts on that kind of stuff? Since I know that was like your main the main thing you wanted to hit.
I suppose what I'd like to bring up in passing maybe is the importance of experience, and I don't necessarily mean like, oh, you're an old man, now you're wiser, you're better. We talked about it for a short moment while we were talking about the struggle and the ease of life, but I would just say that when we don't experience something, we can't fully conceptualize it. And we can maybe like can maybe there are certain things that are somewhat instinctual, right? Like there's the flight or fight response, right? And then there's like, okay, well, I do generally know what it's like to be loved, maybe, right? Because I was born and my mother, she gave me that affection and all that stuff. But if you don't experience something, then you're not going to understand it, because it's like, look at it this way. If I were to tell you like war is horrible, and let's say I'm a veteran, right? Like I'm telling you, war is horrible, uh, etc., etc. How could you understand what what horrible is if you never experienced something that was generally shocking, right? And how can you understand sacrifice if you've never had to sacrifice something yourself, right? Like you truly can't. You can
Yeah.
maybe say, "Oh, well, you can imagine it maybe, like maybe you value something and it's like, okay, I'm going to give this something up so that this person can benefit, right? You can maybe imagine it. You can never truly feel it. And I think that it's important that people go out and try and experience as much as they possibly can in life. Stop watching the television show. Stop getting yourself emotionally invested in that. I would say go out and do something, right? Maybe go to a library and
Yeah.
read a book instead of watching a TV show, right? Or like do
Yeah.
things. And it's
That's
important.
where I get a bit conflicted with this stuff though. Is is the distinction of how important experience is between just like head knowledge. Since this kind of goes back to the I don't know if you remember this, but the John Doyle Sydney Watson argument thing about how you need experience to truly understand something, right? And she was using it in like a very rude way, of course. But it's just very unique because it also gets into kind of like the argument is like how important is it? But I think it is important, right? Like I do agree with you, but that also is kind of a complex question, right? And that even gets to like, is it better to not purposely like do something sinful and wrong, of course, but is it better to like go out there and experience stuff and accidentally like experience some like bad sinful things as well to truly understand them? Like, is it better to go out and try and experience the world, but you end up doing a little bit of premarital sex or something like that, and while you view it as wrong, of course, and now you're like, oh yeah, that was fine, or the people should do the same thing, but
Well,
like, is that
no,
okay?
no, it's not
Which,
better to experience doing something sinful. Well, I mean, you're going to experience it. You're going to experience it because we're human beings. We sin all the time. But I would say this: Bible says, "Until I was afflicted, I went astray." And so, basically, what I take that to mean is that until I experienced the repercussions of my sins, I lived in a sinful state. And so basically that experience is necessary, right? And we're trying to take away consequence in the modern age. And so that's kind of why. Anyways, that's a whole different subject. When I said that, I didn't mean that experience will make you understand something. What I meant to say was that experience is necessary to fully understand something. Uh, to an entire extent, right? Because maybe you can get a basic understanding of something, but maybe you can't like fully understand what it's like to sacrifice or what it's like to fight, right? That's what I was trying to say.
yeah,
Like you can be an old man, and I hold this is what I hold to be true. You can be an old man. You could have gone through absolute hell, but if you didn't take a second to think about it, then you are retarded, and I'm not going to listen to you. Um,
yeah,
it's so. All I meant was that you need to experience things in order to fully conceptualize them, especially emotionally too. And I think what you'll find is that if you go out and do stuff in life and you experience things firsthand and then you watch a show, I think you'll feel more touched by something that happens in the show. It's like I think that's true at least because
I do too. I think I've seen that in my own life with like that if you have some experience with it in real life, it does it makes the show better, and 'cause it leads to a better connection with the characters and even a reflection on your own past, I would say.
yeah. So experience is important is all I'm trying to say. I think that experience is something that we don't experience enough is what I'd say. Because we live these very manicured lives where we go to school, we rinse, wash, repeat, and it's like we don't experience anything, not a single thing. It's always new. It's always rinse, wash,
Yeah,
repeat. So I encourage you to go
I
have an
agree.
adventure. Like seriously, go have a real adventure, and even every day, just change it up a little bit.
Yeah,
It's like, okay, I'm not gonna go and read in my reading chair in my house. I'm gonna actually go to the library, right? Like something like that, even if it's small.
yeah. I think that, yeah, just doing something small is important. This is also partially connected to like a problem with the church, right? Is that sometimes in the church we can like judge people that want to go on that journey too early, I guess, and not offer a chance at redemption. It's sometimes on your struggle, well, you there are bumps along the way sometimes, and you can't and you don't avoid them properly, and you like mess up, right? But we also need to make sure that we present in the church to make sure that we present to people that people are flawed, and while our God is perfect, human beings are flawed, and that you will mess up, and that they will mess up, and that all people mess up, and that we need to offer redemption for those who have sinned and who've sinned in like a public way, and not that there should be consequences, of course, but that these things and and that these people's like struggles are real, I guess, and that it's normal for human beings to have struggle, and that it's a good thing in some ways, and it's something that needs to that people need to come together to help people that do have struggle, to help them out with that, and not just abandon them and just be like, oh, everything's perfect. Like back to the 1950s thing, like as well. But it's like we can't just be like, oh, it's all a hunky dory and like present a lie, since that's partially what I think has driven some people away from the church, is that it's presented as like, oh yeah, it'll all be hunky dory, baby. But in actuality, like yeah, people are real and that they have struggle and people need to come together to help those that do struggle.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that a lot of well, when you live a manicured life, right? Man, I hate manicured things. Everything that's manicured. I'm just like
We hate manicures.
I meant to say I meant to
We're
finish and
officially
say
anti
I
manicure.
meant to say I hate manicured things. At least manicured lifestyles. But when you live a life so devout of like bad things happening, when something bad happens, you're not necessarily sure as to how to react to it. And in fact, you're most likely going to freak out and you're going to understand it improperly. And so what happens is it's like if a lot of people are afraid to confess of their sins to their friends and their families because it's like they're going to it's like let's say you have like they're like maybe a porn addiction or something like that, right? And it's like or maybe you're an alcoholic and it's like people live this life where it's like, oh, you have to be a very bad person if you're like a porn addict, right? That's what people think, right? And it's like nowadays the problem is that people are getting addicted to porn when they're a young kid and they made a stupid decision, right? So you have a lot of kids who just they're not honest about their addiction and they can't get help because people have this idea that it's like, oh, only the most wicked, perverted people are porn addicts. And it's like, again, this is the problem with not experiencing things. And this is the problem with manicured and planned livelihoods. It's like, we can't live this way. We can't afford to live this way 1 second longer. You know, it's dangerous.
Exactly, because it just leads to more destruction, which is why it's so important that we fight back against these things to help ourselves and also the future generations. All right, it was like the world doesn't end with us.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. It's like, people, at this point, all we can do is set up a livelihood for our kids that is going to prepare them for the hell that is going to be the rest of the 21st century.
Yeah, and that in and of itself is scary. I mean, not even thinking about like just because the future is that's scary in and of itself, but just thinking about but even the idea of like raising kids or like having a wife or having that commitment. And I think I view that as like scary in some ways, even though I know it's a good thing that would be helpful for me and something that that I need to do in the future. And I think that's a shared thought around a lot of like Gen Z is that these things are very scary and like unknown, and like we wouldn't even know how to approach them, right? Because like especially people that have like a family trauma and stuff like that, they haven't seen like those proper relationships and know how to approach stuff like that.
Yeah, it's like we haven't witnessed stable relationships, we haven't witnessed beautiful relationships, and it's like we certainly haven't witnessed how healthy relationships begin, right? And we haven't witnessed a realistic relationship, and a realistic relationship is that sometimes people don't get along, right? So, but what we've witnessed is people aren't getting
Yeah.
along all the time, right? People are unhappy, they're discontent, they're angry, and it's just a mess. It's a mess. Of course, I mean everyone knows it's all a mess, but I think that the cause of it all is just the pure manicured lifestyle and the lack of experience that we have. Or that's maybe not the cause of it all, but it's a cause of a lot of things.
Yeah. So I guess yeah, I have to ask that. I mean, of course, yeah, you're pretty young and you don't have like a stable income for like the family or whatever. But would you say that would you say that you're personally mentally ready for like a relationship like that? Was like I'd say that even though I'm older than you, like I wouldn't say I don't know if I am, to be honest. Which should be a shameful thing to say on the right wing, but it's just a truthful thing to say. And I think that's true for a lot of young people is that especially on like the far right circles, it's a lot of talk, but a lot of them haven't truly prepared themselves for that family life, which should be an important thing that we should talk about and try and bring about in people is truly preparing them mentally and making them feel okay with expressing that they're unsure about how they would approach these things or if they're and their fear.
So I would say that me personally, I do feel that I how I feel about the situation is that there is no one who is of my age, I would say, who is game for me, that I could have a relationship with, because people who are around my age they are not ready. But personally, me, I do believe myself to be ready for the responsibilities of a relationship, and I find myself longing for that experience and those responsibilities. And I think that I don't think that my age is too young. In fact, I think that a lot of the people who are getting married far too old. What I've seen is I've met people who got married when they were 17 and 18, and then they were married for 75 years before one of them died. So I I do think I'm ready. But the only reason that I'm ready is because that I think I'm ready, at least, is because I understand what it's like to have responsibilities. I understand the requirements that a relationship is going to potentially have, depending on each different relationship. And I understand what a healthy relationship looks like, because I was blessed enough to be raised in a somewhat healthy household.
That's good. Um, I would just say that like is that like uh, don't is that like yeah it's just that like I don't think that you have to wait for the girls though because like was like in all honesty they're not gonna get better, right? So you just have to view that well maybe the girls aren't ready, but that you have to be the one to take charge of that. And if you can find and the girl you get doesn't have to be perfect, right? Because I feel like a lot of times oh yeah the perfect trad girl, but just like in actuality, like maybe she's only like 65% trad, and maybe that's and but maybe that'll work for you, and like and that you can have a beautiful family with that. It was like just because someone isn't like they're not the perfect girl, or whatever, doesn't mean that you can't have like a very good marriage and like have kids with them.
Yeah, I have thought about that. Uh, but the problem is a lot of women my age, they're in a very interesting stage, and it's funny. It's really funny to think about. But a lot of women at my age, they're like, oh, look at this cute thing. They're still stuck in their childhood years in a lot of ways.
I mean, let's just be honest, man. That's how I see girls in college too. I mean, they're still like, "Oh, look at the pretty thing," and like the shows. Like, I'm gonna be honest, man. Like, it's I don't they in my experience, the girls didn't change that much from high school to college. So,
That's probably true. I think the real change comes when they funnily enough when they enter the workforce, because now they do that. Um I'm just I like I'm looking. I am looking. I'm not I like I told you before. I'm the kind of guy who is almost too quick with my with to show the number, you know. I'm too quick to show the 10 digits, you know. So but
he's too quick. He gets the digits and immediately asks for the spicy photos.
the photos no photos, no photos. No picture. No, but I'm the kind of
Have you
guy
never asked
like
for
I'm the
any
kind of
have you
guy.
never asked for any kind of photos?
No, no. I'm not. I've never got. So
Okay.
I've given my number out 3 times. Okay. The first time it was the second day of driving school, and there was a young woman with a very nice, very nice behind, very nice face. Everything about her was very nice.
Very nice what? Very nice mind, very nice
the
face.
the
What did you say
very the
first?
very nice a very nice behind, a very nice behind, and I
Oh,
was
oh,
like,
very nice
okay, so it's
behind.
the
Okay.
second day that I've seen her. I'm only gonna have 2 weeks that I'm gonna have the option of knowing her, and I'm like, okay, if I can hand my number out now, then I'm gonna have 2 weeks to get to know a lot about her in person, and then we can date after these 2 weeks are done. So I hand out my number this on the second day, and she's like, "No, I'm not interested in a relationship at the moment." And so okay, it's the second time. It was like the second to last day of driving class. I handed it out to another girl there. And she was like, "No, I already have a boyfriend, but I think it's great that you tried." And then the third time,
Oof.
yeah, then the third time I handed my number out to a girl at the local grocery store, and it was like the second time I'd seen her. We only exchanged a couple words first time I saw her, and yeah, I got no response on that one. So yeah, like I said, I'm too quick. I'm just like
Hey,
I'm
man is trying his best. No disrespect, man. No disrespect. Sometimes you gotta you gotta keep on trying until you can catch a fish. So no disrespect from me on that front, man. Sometimes you gotta be. I mean, sometimes people are just quick on the draw, and that's fine.
yeah,
So
I'm very quick on the draw.
some people need to be talked to more. Some people are more ready to give out the number.
Yeah, I pull out my 10 digits, and it doesn't go so well. So I think I'm gonna be a little bit slower.
Yeah, and just so you guys know, no, it's something you gotta be quick with it, man. Just I'd say just like don't just do it. I saying whatever saying do whatever you feel is right. I feel like that's also not good advice either.
Yeah, I
But don't feel like you have to wait too long either. But sometimes if you wait too long, waiting too long can also be a mess. Timing. So I guess it's all about timing.
yeah, it is all about timing. The I'll learn one day. I'll learn one day. I don't know. Maybe they just.
He'll learn.
What
And
I've learned though is that like there are women who are getting with literally the lowest guys on purpose now, and it's funny, right? Because you see the that chart. It's like men are getting with the lowest girls and girls are getting with the highest guys, even though it's like the lowest girls who are trying to get with the highest guys. But I think that that's where they're aiming, and it's not necessarily where they're hitting, right? I think that they aim high, they get low. And I noticed that there's a lot of girls nowadays, and they
Yeah.
get with the dumpiest guys who wear like a ponytail, but the rest of their head is shaved, or they've got like a mullet. And it's like, okay, so basically, women are lowering their standards. And I think a lot of them lower their standards because they don't think that they can survive the top guy is what I'd say.
Yeah.
They don't think they're eligible is what I'd say.
Yeah. And just so you guys know, I've seen Professor P's face. Yeah, he's not a bad looking guy, so don't worry, guys. The reason why
Oh,
he got rejected isn't because he's some like ugly mofo. He's a semi attractive guy at the very
I
least. So don't worry,
I
viewers.
just realized that I presupposed my own good lookingness. I just presupposed my own good lookingness in my entire last sentence. I am forgive my pride, forgive my lack of humility, please.
No, it's fine, dude. It's fine. You don't have to apologize for it. A lot of people are a lot more boastful, man. So
uh,
a lot more. Some people are a lot more boastful, and they have a lot less to give.
I'm just like,
There's a lot less there to look at. So
yeah. But honestly, like I'm just an average guy from like 1960, I guess you'd say. That's what
yeah,
I'd say. Not like the hippie
he's the
average guy.
humble gold merchant. He's the humble gold merchant.
Oh man. I'm oh man, but oh yeah, I've just really put myself into deeper mud, haven't I?
No, 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 no.
Yeah.
It's what the people want. People want to hear funky stuff, man.
Yeah.
If it was up to them, they'd want you to talk about. They'd want you to talk about. Oh, what's your favorite type of girl? Oh, Professor P. What's your favorite kind of girl? Ooh, or something like
Yeah.
that.
Uh I don't know. My favorite type of
That's
woman.
right.
Hmm.
As we all know, Professor P likes him. He likes him black and big. Isn't that right?
Oh man, I the way I like my coffee is I like my coffee like I like my women, and I like my coffee with a healthy bit of cream. That's all I'll say. You know, a good bit of cream.
That's
I sugar too.
right.
Sugar too.
Sugar too. A lot of sugar. Very sweet.
And not very sweet coffee, but
What?
sweet enough.
But what size do you? What size do you like your handles though on your mugs? What size do you like your handles on your mugs?
I have they're not the biggest hands, but the fingers are kind of wide. They're not fat fingers, but they're bony. So I would say
Oh no, I was talking about your hands. No, no. I was like,
I would say that
it's just a joke.
I like
On
my handles on my mugs wide. Wide. I'd say wide.
why? Okay.
Not
What about the how
man.
how do you like the top of your mug though? Do you like it to jut out? Do you like it to be or do you like are you a fan of them being flat? It was I think I like I like my mugs to be large at the top. Or are you a fan of like the flat
I
mugs?
oh boy. Honestly, to me, it's all about the face of the mug is what I would say. It's like the rest of the body.
It's all about the design on the
Yeah, it's all
front.
about the design on the front, the art that is imprinted on it. It's all about the face, and if the
Yeah.
rest of the body matches the face, that's what matters. I do like though. I would
Okay.
prefer a uh, a wider top of the mug, a bigger top of the mug.
Okay. 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 We beat this horrible innuendo to death.
Yeah, we
Okay.
brutalized that horse.
I shouldn't I regret going with it. I regret going with it.
Yeah, I'm not the smoothest guy when it comes to references all the time, so probably shouldn't have gone that route.
Yeah. It's okay. I was pretty bad too. I was. Oh man. Okay, so I did we hit everything you on the hit, right?
Yeah, I believe we did. I believe we did. Main message, go
Okay, nice.
experience things.
This has been, dude. I really enjoyed it.
That's my main message. Go experience things.
Okay, now we have our questions though, so it's not over yet. We have our questions that I ask every single guest.
Okay. Let me hear them.
Are you excited? Are you ready for the amazing
I
questions?
I am dying to know.
Okay.
Draw.
Draw. Draw.
Draw. Come on,
Okay.
draw. Shoot me.
Okay. Okay. Life plans. And do you ever want to do any kind of media like this ever again?
So my life plans. My life plans are to get my family together in a way that I can see all of them, organize. And when I say that, I mean like move towards where my current family members are, and then kind of like I can see them, right? But after that, after I get all my personal things done, I get the lady, all that stuff, all the kids. I I want to move into politics, and I want to be a somewhat influential person. I don't necessarily want my face to be
Mm.
known, though that might be nice because then I can get to important places. But that's
I mean, showing your face is good though. I mean, people like to see the face, man.
well
And some of your content already does have your face on it, you
when
know.
I
So,
say that I guess I mean I don't need my name. I don't necessarily care for recognition. Maybe it's a good thing to get my face out there, but I don't
okay,
necessarily care that people know it's me that's saying it. Though it might be nice.
yeah. It's not. It's not all about the money, money,
Yeah,
money, money, and the fame. It's not all about the e fame and the e
yeah.
bucks.
But uh, if you're asking if I would ever attend this form of media again, uh, absolutely horrible experience. Jamie is a terrible host. He didn't even provide drinks. Um, 0 out of 10, negative
Oh
1 out of
no,
10.
it's all over, gamer
Will
bros.
never attend again.
No.
No, but I'm just kidding. I would,
Oof.
I would re-record this episode for Pete's sake. Seriously, I'll come back anytime. I'll be back.
Yeah, that's good to hear, man. That's good to hear. Okay. Now we go back and forth between some good questions and some cringy questions. Okay. What? Okay. Can we get your thoughts on the women question?
The women question. So what kind of woman question? Is this like the should they vote woman question, or is this like am I in a relationship kind of woman question?
It's open. It's open. It's open. It's an open thing. Like thoughts on women. It's basically like thoughts on women. You know, thoughts on the women question.
Women are they are just like men in a sad state. I'll say that. And I think that oh boy, I don't know where I should go with this. What I'll start off saying is that I think that traditional gender roles should be applied, and I think that that maybe there's some room for slight change. But I would say that both women and men should apply to the rules and the roles. So I would say I
Hmm.
am looking, like I said earlier. I would say that women are better off away from the ballot box. I'll just say that. And I'll say that daddy issues are real. Daddy issues are real.
I'd have to agree.
Yeah,
I'd have to agree with that, man.
exactly.
Okay, so what's a book recommendation? What book do the people need to read?
Oh boy. The Hobbit. Though, if we're talking
Hmm.
politics, let's go different route. There's
I mean, you can recommend three books. So give us three. Give us three recommendations in any subcategory, genre,
okay,
whatever.
all right then. The Hobbit. Uh, That Hideous Strength, and I'm trying to think about the audience right now with my final one. I would propose. Well, I could be boring, and I could say like the very cliche. Oh, read the Bible. Like that's obviously a very good one, but that's more than a book, right? That's uh
We've gotten that before.
yeah.
We've got that
The
once
Bible.
before.
That's too cliche. I'm not gonna say that, even though you should read that. Um, I'd say read any of the Charles Dickens books. That's what I'd
Okay.
say. Yeah.
Nice. I actually do need to I really do need to read that Hideous Strength, by the way. I need to read it. I've like said I was gonna read it for a bit, but I finally need to get on that and
Yeah.
read it.
It's by C.S. Lewis, by the way.
'Cause it's
Yeah,
good, right?
it's good so far. I've been reading it,
Oh,
and
I know.
it's been good so far. I already generally know what it's about though before I read it, but I figured I should read it. Um, it's very good.
Okay. Okay. Who do you recommend to come on this podcast next? And who can you connect me with that will be willing to come on this podcast?
Me. Okay, but serious answers. There's
Yes.
me, myself, and I, and then there's this guy called Professor Paleocon. He's pretty good. No, okay. I'm being serious now. I'm being serious now. Uh, I would like to see David Carlson on this show. And can I connect you with him?
Ah,
Maybe
okay.
not. Is he too busy to be on the show? Probably. I'd like to see it though.
Okay. We'll see. I'll try. I'll try. I have just as good a connection as him. I think with him as you do. I think
Yeah, yeah.
so. I mean, maybe you talk to him more than I do. Maybe you talk
You
to him fairly
probably
regularly.
talk to him more than I do,
I'm
honestly. I
blown
don't
out.
talk to I talk with him on a minimum. So, yeah.
Well, we'll try. We'll maybe not that. We'll try. We'll try and get him on. Um. Well, hey, what's your hobby? What's your hobby outside of the internet space?
Outside of the internet space, I play piano. I guess I'm good with when I have the ability to, I do archery. I practice clay shooting.
That's
Yeah.
cool.
Thanks.
Ah, nice, man.
My so there's I think piano is probably my favorite one. I would consider writing a hobby. However, it's a little bit because it's kind of in the internet space now. I would say that it maybe doesn't count. Um. So yeah, that's those are my hobbies.
Yeah, that's very good, man. And actually, see, you passed the test. Was that from my last podcast? Actually, they wanted me to add that one specifically. Was they were like, you need to be able to tell who is a normal person or not, and you tell if somebody is a normal person by if they have hobbies outside of the internet.
Yeah, that's actually a very good test. That's a test that I've practiced myself.
Yeah. Okay, so what do you think the future of America will be?
Total collapse. I think it'll break into total collapse. It will. There will be.
Well,
Yeah, I think that there will be separate dictatorships formed. There will also be anarchies. I think that eventually, when everything comes down to it, we'll probably be invaded by a foreign nation. And I think that I'm actually kind of hoping for that one to happen. And I think that I'm lucky enough to see that
man.
panning out because like we need some hard times, man. So and I think that America will become like probably around 6 different warlord like states. Uh, most dictatorships, I'd say. Well, no, it depends on where they are
Like so
geographically.
basically like the worst version of the great divorce, right? So basically that's the idea of
The
what'll
worst
happen.
version, yeah, I would say the worst version. I think the South is going to be a pretty epic place to be during the Great Divide. I'll say that. So
And then Florida's gonna be its own separate state. It's gonna be like no, it's gonna be horrible. It's its own separate desert, horrible swamp state.
Texas will suck up Florida and all the other coast states, the South Coast states. That's what I think will happen.
Oh, maybe. Interesting. Okay, so another more serious question. I mean, the last one was pretty serious too, but you know, it can be taken either way. You know, we can have a fun time with that one. But this one, oh shoot, I questioned on if I should add this one. Well, this is one I got from the last one as well, which is another like test on people is how not really a test on how they answer, but it can let you see more into them. Is do you fear death?
Hmm. Yesn't, because I think that I'd like to see the end. I I suppose I fear dying before the right time. And you know, it's not like I want to I don't want to be an old man when it happens. I'd rather die in like when I'm in my 50s or something, right? But at the same time, I'd
Yeah,
also think it
and
could
it's
be great to
understandable.
be an old man in a way, but I think it'd be horrible also. But I don't necessarily fear it. I think that I fear more so what happens when I'm gone that I can't control. Because whatever happens to me, right? It's like, okay, whatever, right? I'm gone, but like what happens to my family? Who's there to protect them? Because you know, my dad's getting old. My brother lives far away. And so it's like what happens to the rest of everyone else, right? So yeah. I know people
Yeah,
who are
no,
afraid of
I
death.
really appreciate that answer, man. That was a good one.
Well, I don't know what to say
Wait,
to
what?
I don't know what to say to that compliment, but I know people who fear death, and it's not exactly a good motivation. I'd say that. That's what I'll say.
Yeah.
So
Okay, we get into another fun one then. What is your thoughts on anime in the right wing?
ah, well, I suppose I already somewhat voiced my opinions on anime a moment ago. But I think that its correlation with the right wing it makes perfect sense because we're living in a world where, let's just be honest, the modern world is like super boring, super annoying, super unbeautiful, super uneventful, super undramatic, super wash, rinse, repeat. And I think that anime is an emotional escape to a reality where it's like, okay, here's something beautiful. And here's how these people struggled. And uh it's and not only that, but it's art, right? Anime is art. So it's it's oftentimes it's beautiful to see a lot of what's made, right? And
Yeah.
I also think that it's an alternate 1950s fantasy, I would call it. Not in the same not in the same 1950s sense of like, oh, this is all perfect. There's no struggle. It's a manicured life, but it's the same in the sense that that's what people they want it to be like. That's what I'd say. So I'd say I'd classify it
Yeah,
as a right-wing fantasy.
yeah. I'd have to agree with that, honestly. Even though I am more of an anime fan, I think what you said is true.
Well, that's good to have that verified, actually. I always believed it to be true, but
Yeah.
I'm glad to have it
Okay.
verified by a certified anime man.
Let's go. Yeah.
Oh, man.
Okay. So the final question is, what are two questions that you'd like to add on to this list of questions?
Uh,
What are two questions you think I should ask every single guest?
what do you want most in life? And ooh, oh man, you see the thing is when you're asking someone a question, you're trying to be very deep, right? So
Well, they can be like serious, they can be funny, they can be like it's like I like to have a what do you want most in life and
and I would say, how do you plan to achieve it? How do you plan to achieve it? What do you want most in life, and how do you plan to achieve it?
since those are pretty connected, I'll give you another one. I'll give you another question. I'll give you another one then. You can
All right, okay. Um, what is your motivation? Maybe you already asked that question in the beginning of these episodes, don't you?
Yeah, but that's specifically referring to like their content, right? You mean like what do you want? What do you want most in life? I mostly asked like what do you want with your content and stuff like that. But
Okay,
specifically saying what do you want most in life? That's more general. So I think that's a fine one.
okay. You know what? The change the question I said about what is your motivation. Forget that I said that. Say this. How do you feel? Very simple. Like just how do you feel? And just see how they respond. And I think that that's an interesting. It's just a very interesting way to. Sometimes you'll get people who want to pour their heart out, and sometimes you'll get people who are just like I feel fine. So I think I th-
Yeah, I actually like that. I like that.
yeah, just ask people how they feel.
Professor P going with the big thunk questions. I like it.
I think uh, I think that that's an interesting thing to do sometimes.
Yeah, I agree. Well, is there anything else you'd like to show? What do you need? We gotta get some shill time. How do they find you? What's the Insta? What's the Twitter? What's the
Well,
YouTube?
my Twitter is at @Paleocon. My channel name is Professor Paleocon. You can. Those are basically the two platforms you can find me on. I also have a Substack, which I will be posting in the description of my newest video that is coming out very soon. Yeah, as you can tell, I'm not really on a lot of different platforms because I don't like social media very much. So, you know, yeah. That's about
Yeah.
what you can find me on. Uh, I have a question for you though.
Oh, yeah. You can ask it. A question for me. Yeah.
Do you fear death?
Do I?
Yeah.
Um. Um. For me, it's complex. I guess. Since I would say that like sometimes I do and sometimes I don't. Right. Since like I worry that like I wouldn't have achieved what would have wanted to achieve,
Hmm.
and I sometimes I just worry what that would be like, and everything else. Since it is like some of it is like scary and unknown. So yeah, it's just, so sometimes I just don't know. Sometimes I feel like very secure, and other times not as much.
Yeah, I understand that.
I don't know if that's I don't know if that's an okay answer, but
I understand that. I do. Sometimes what I fear most about death, and I guess I didn't say this before, is if I die before everyone else when I'm waiting there, Like, who's gonna follow me, right? Who of the people that I know are gonna be with me, you know, 10, 20 years down the line after I die? That's one thing that I'm like, oh, who's gonna make it? You know, that's what scares me. Because at least if I die last, right, I can generally get maybe an idea of who's probably gonna be there and probably not. Because I can know who they were when they died, you know, to an extent.
Yeah.
But other than that, I don't particularly fear death. Um, by the way,
Yeah.
did you get the reference that I made with Davy Jones there when I asked you the question?
What did you say again about that? I think I did, but
Oh, I just said, "Do
was
you fear death?
you
Do
said
you fear death the way that Davy Jones
yeah,
said?"
yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, no, yeah, yeah, I got it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Never mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, 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 I got it. Yeah. I got it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I do.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, there was a reference to that. Yeah. I've seen those movies, man,
I
okay?
just I,
I watch some movies occasionally. I've seen all of the
I
those
just wanted
movies.
to know if you got the pop culture reference because I'm a Zoomer and I occasionally engage in that.
I'm a zoomer too, bruh.
Okay, I'm just checking to make sure.
I'm
I'm just
not
making sure you didn't miss it.
Hey, bruh, Pirates of the Caribbean is more like my time than yours anyway, okay?
Okay.
Like it came out, I don't even know. I think the first one was like I don't even know when it came out. It was like sometime in the early was it even I don't know, man. Maybe it was even like the early 2000s, man. I don't even know when it came out.
Yeah, I think it was like 2005.
I don't even remember, I don't even know if I don't know if I saw the original until later on. No, I don't know. I don't know when I know I've seen them all, but I don't remember when I watched them. Maybe I watched them on like TV or something like that. I think since I don't think I watched them in theaters.
Mm.
I think I saw them on like TV or something like that later on. So, but yeah, now it's time for me to chill a bit. Okay, guys. So you can find me. Of course, you can subscribe down below. I'd really appreciate it. Click the bell. And you can find me on Twitter and you can find my other YouTube channel at Jamie Boy, JAMMEYBOY. You can also find me on Instagram now. I've officially opened up my public Instagram account. It's called Jamie Boy, JAMMEYBOY. And you can check that out. I post some stuff there. I'll be posting more stuff in the future. I'd really appreciate the follows if you can give them, since I know I want to be internet famous one day, and I want my e-girls, and the only way to get e-girls is with lots of clout. So help me get clout, there, boys.
Oh boy, oh boy, how do we get clout?
So
That's an interesting question.
that's right. So please follow me and all that kind of stuff. And before we end things off, do you have anything else to say, Professor P?
I don't believe I have anything else to say besides farewell and go have an adventure, like Bilbo Baggins.
So true. That's right. That's right, guys. Build the wagon, go have an adventure, and just have a good one, guys. Anyway, God bless you guys, and I'll see you when I see you, which I hope is sometime soon. Anyway, be on the lookout for episode 6 of the podcast. This is episode 5, I think. But if you watch out for episode 6 of the podcast. Anyway, bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.